In 1980, South African director Jamie Uys set out to make a comedy film. His idea was simple but bold, a satire of modern civilization told through the eyes of a Kalahari bushman. For authenticity, Uys decided not to hire a professional actor to play his lead. Instead, he traveled deep into Namibia and found ṭOma, a farmer and goat herd of the San people, who had never acted before, never traveled far from his home, and never imagined that his face would one day be recognized all over the world. The film became The Gods Must Be Crazy. It wasn't just successful, it was a global phenomenon. With a budget of just $500,000, it went on to earn over $200 million worldwide. It was, by far, the most financially successful South African film ever made. Audiences laughed, critics raved, and Hollywood studios scrambled to buy distribution rights. At the center of it all was Nćxau. But his own reward was tragically out of proportion to the riches flowing around him. For his starring role, Nćxau was paid just $300. He had little familiarity with the value of money, and according to those who knew him, the bills literally blew away in the desert wind. The irony was cruel. In the film itself, his character, She, discovers a Coca-Cola bottle dropped from an airplane, an object from the modern world that disrupts the peace of his tribe. To him, it has no intrinsic value, but to others, it becomes a source of jealousy, conflict, and greed. Life seemed to imitate art. To Western audiences, the myth took hold that Nćxau simply didn't know what money was. But that wasn't true. During the 15 weeks of filming, he stayed in urban areas where he learned to buy tobacco and liquor. He understood the scraps of paper. What he lacked was a use for them back home, where there were no shops and no cash economy. In San tradition, wealth is collective. A man with resources is expected to share with his family. And family extends far beyond the nuclear household. Kinship ties meant that money flowed outward, constantly demanded, never fully his to keep. In that context, money wasn't a treasure. It was a burden. After the embarrassment of his first payment, the director compensated Nćxau with something more tangible. Cattle. In his words, because he liked the idea that cattle don't run away when you hunt. He received 12 cows. Unfortunately, lions claimed most of them, and the rest ended up as food for his community. Eventually, a trust fund was set up in his name, and he was paid a small stipend of $100 per month for a few years. But this was still a pittance compared to the fortunes the movie was making overseas. By the time the sequel, The Gods Must Be Crazy 2, was filmed in 1989, Nćxau was wiser. For the first time, he tasted what Westerners might call modern comfort. Following the success of the sequel, Nćxau was cast in several Chinese productions during the 1990s, expanding his fame even further. He could have pursued a longer acting career. Yet by 1994, he'd had enough. He returned to farming, raising maize and cattle. Much of the money he had earned was gone. Tradition demanded he share with relatives, and generosity was second nature. His wealth slipped away into the hands of others. But that loss didn't seem to trouble him. Fame was never his goal. In 2003 or 2004, reports emerged that Nćxau had died of tuberculosis at around 59 years old. He left behind his wife, 6 children, and a legacy unlike any other. From goat herd to global icon, from obscurity to the world's cinema screens, his life was both extraordinary and painfully symbolic. Western audiences often framed Nćxau's story as one of tragedy, a man who made millions for others but never became rich himself. Yet to measure his life solely in dollars is to miss the point. In industrialized societies, wealth is equated with possessions, security, and endless accumulation. In Nćxau's world, wealth was measured differently, by family, by cattle, by freedom. Money was never the master, only a tool, and often a troublesome one. There's an old saying, "A poor man is one who always wants more, while a rich man is one who wants for nothing." By that measure, perhaps Nćxau was far richer than the directors, producers, and distributors who profited from his face. His story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. Who really profits from art? Who decides the value of labor? And what happens when two worlds, one driven by money, the other by tradition, collide on the global stage?